Time to let this bad boy rip. It right. Hello, you know what it is? It is time for me to break down and talk about the best, the worst, and the trashiest animes come out of 2024. To finally be all caught up on my list of the best and worst and trashy animes from 2020 up until our current Lord and Savior 2025. And why am I doing the best and worst animes of 2024 when I did one many years back, the first few videos where I did make this channel and blossom up in the first place? Well, few reasons. One, as I've stated when I dropped my best, worst, and trashiest animes of 2020 series, I basically wanted to redo a lot of what I did the first time around, and I feel like I came a long way with that video and from that very first video. On top of it, looking back at the very first video I uploaded and the second video that came afterwards, the audio quality unfortunately hasn't hold up super well. It's like kind of sort of corrupted. The footage of me at the time, I didn't know how to do video editing. I didn't know how to describe my animes properly, and for sure, I really want to take my hands and take a stab at actually being able to make a true, proper best and worst and trashy animes of 2024. So, without further ado, let's get into the worst animes of 2024 has to offer. And before we do that, of course, we gotta start off with some of the honorable mentions. So, first and foremost on our honorable mentions is the Rick and Morty anime, which I'm not even gonna bother pop up the poster because I already talked the video about that not too long ago. So if you want to check that video out, I'll leave a link down below so you can check it out. But as I mentioned already, this would have been the number one spot for the worst anime of 2024. But after making that video, I realized like, it's not really much of a video that I should be talking about and mentioning when it comes to what is the worst anime of that year. And don't get me wrong, the Rick and Morty anime is still super bad. It's probably going to be everyone's number one worst anime of 2024. But for me personally, looking back at it, I don't think it's deserving at the number one spot, and as a result, I feel like it's more in the honorable mentions. Because trust me, I think there are five more shows that are somehow worse than the Rick and Morty anime if we're gonna go into how it's a full blown anime. But moving on from our next honorable mention, we're gonna go into the honorable disappointing shitty hentais, with the first being Maria, a show that I've also talked about in length recently with to recommend this six disappointing hentai video that I dropped a while ago. So I'm not gonna really gush over grains to why Mario is not good. The hentai is pretty bad. It's NTR slop. That's all I gotta say about that, and I'll leave it at that. Next on our honorable mentions is Ojisan de Umeru Ana the animation. This one, yeah, basically it different age gap, ugly bastards, NTR slob, mind break shit. It's just not good. Do not watch this show. It is poo poo pee pee. It is not the hentai for you. Next on disappointing, terrible hentais, we have Itawo Yoru, which, at first when you look at this poster here, you may think like, man, this is like the gorgeous art style you're gonna ever see. And yes, it is definitely gorgeous. I absolutely love the art style of this hentai, but what really sucks, and this is why I put it in the honorable mentions, is it's by Queen Bee Studios, which for any hentai enthusiast that knows about Queen Bee Studios, they're infamous for giving us some of the worst PowerPoint presentation hentais you're ever going to come across. Like, they basically took a vanilla hentai or vanilla dojin, and when it translated to a hentai, it became one of the most disappointing and just also the most boring hentai to come out of last year. So that's why it's over here. Next on here, we're gonna have to just hopefully blur out is No Waifu, No Life. Yeah, honestly, I kind of went to watching this hoping it was gonna be like another parody of No Game, No Life, if anyone knows about that anime show. But No Waifu, No Life. Again, another instance of a disappointing show under Queen Bee Studios or Blue Bread in this case. And yeah, it's just more PowerPoint presentation bullshit, and it's just not good. It's just really boring, and it's just really disappointing for a show that I was hoping would be really funny and fun bad in a way. But now we go to like the more honorable mention animes, with first being Chain Soldier or Matsuse no Slave. Again, this show in a nutshell was touted to be the next big anime to come out of last year, And unfortunately, it flopped so hard it became such a disappointing mess because not only did it spoil the premise of the show within 3 episodes, but then the rest of the show tries to like make it like really interesting and really wholesome and I guess overall full nuts and bolts action. You get to care about these characters, but it fails on all fronts. And the fact that we're getting a season 2 of the show is saying something given that the first season wasn't good in my view, but I don't know, maybe the second season is going to get better. Who knows? It's under 7 arc series too, so 7 arcs. Given that the animation was good for this show, and that's the only thing going for it, I am at least hopeful that the second season is going to get a little bit better from here. But we'll have to wait and see. All right, next on here, Isekai Ultimate Paradise. Yeah, this thing sucks. This is like basically every fan service weeb's dream anime, but it was just shitted down to the lowest common denominator. This thing is not good. It is super boring. On top of it, the animation for Isekai Ultimate Paradise is probably one of the worst animated shows of 2024 that year because not only is this a 12 episode show, but each episode is 3 minutes length. I'm not even kidding. It's 3 minutes long. Is speedrunning the hell out of the show, and as the title suggests, it's about a dude who gets isekai after getting crushed by an onsen hot tub, whatever, and then he unlocks the powers of what it's like to be in an onsen and what all the benefits that it does. So it's just like a blatantly terrible and boring show that is just really a huge waste of time. It's not worth your uh 3 minutes per episode up until then. It's just not good. It's trying to be fan servicey and it fails on all fronts. And finally, to wrap up our honorable mentions list, we gotta go with the disappointing and surprisingly bad Blue Lock Season 2, which, as I mentioned originally when I first started this channel, my first video of this, I love Blue Lock first Season 1. Blue Lock Season 1 was incredible. It is amazing. I consider it to be like a really good like showcase of what was to come for the sports anime genre. And Blue Lock Season 2 comes out and it ends up being like what happened with One Punch Man Season 2 over again. Like this thing was not good, not only because of the animation wise, but like the story wise started to become a little bit cliche. And given that the animation was super subpar compared to the first season, it's like all the impactful serious moments from the season 2 is completely watered down, it's fizzled, and by the time it gets to the final moments of the second season, it's like the big reveal, the big huge moment that makes this second season supposed to be special is more or less ruined. All right, now we get into the top 5 worst animes to come out of 2024. And of course, to kick it off at the number 5 spot, we have Uzumaki. Yeah, Uzumaki, Spiral into Horror. Look, you could call me a bit maybe recency bias since, again, it is going to make 1 year, unfortunately, since the disappointment that was Uzumaki. But look, given like the background, if you know why Uzumaki came out the way it is, there was like some pretty big production and contract issues that were going on behind the scenes, and they had more or less a few choices where either they drop one episode and then they cancel the whole thing, or they just release it how it is, or they just straight up don't release Uzumaki at all. And again, you can look it up online; it's available for you to check out. But still, you have to fumble super hard on not only one of the greatest horror mangas ever by Junji Ito, but simultaneously flop a disappointing mess of a show. Like, again, first episode of Uzumaki, incredible, absolutely amazing, super worth the wait. And then the last 3 episodes is complete 9 day difference from the first episode, and unfortunately, like all the creepiness and all the disturbing and psychological aspects that made Uzumaki the manga special and unique for its time is completely watered down and reduced to a joke in the Uzumaki anime adaptation. I still don't understand why it came out the way it is, and I think it's safe to say that for many Junji Ito fans to this day, they're still sad and disappointed that we got the Uzumaki anime that we got right here, right now. But hey, that's what happens when a show of this caliber waited this long and we got this unfortunate, disappointing show. But yeah, has to be super high on here for a valid reason, nonetheless. But moving on, of course, we go into our number 4 spot. And at number 4, we have Another second season, which was also really disappointing. Really, I was waiting for the past 4 years, and when it came out with a total shit bomb. And that was Tower of God Season 2 Return of the Prince. Now, of course, for any of you who have paid attention to this franchise, there actually is two parts to the season two, with Tower of God Season 2 Return of the Prince, and the second season being the workshop battle. So in retrospect, between the workshop battle and the Return of the Prince arc, which is both season two, the workshop battle is slightly better than this first half of season two, and that's why I chose this second season, Return of the Prince, in a nutshell. Because my freaking god, like, what the hell happened to this show? Like, when Tower of God came out back in 2020 during the COVID pandemic year, it was actually like a really good standout anime. It had one of those iconic anime scenes to come out in recent memory, and had so much promise and so much well-being and so much beauty and madness, and the art style for the time was super good. So with season two around the corner, I was definitely looking forward to it because I actually liked and enjoyed Tower of God season one. Season two comes around, and obviously at first the story and the premise is like, okay, it's understandable. It's taking place many years later. Let's see what happens. Here we go. And season two comes around, and it just becomes a really weird, confusing mess. The animation is super, super disappointing, and it made me wonder, like, wait a minute, this isn't Tower of God. Who is this by? And it turns out that this is not the same studio that gave us Tower of God season one. This is under a different studio. It's under the Answer Studio. The first season was under Telecom Animation Films. So with this new studio I've never heard of, they more or less butchered a lot of like key fight sequences to the point where there half the time it felt like it was lagging whenever there was like a massive fight sequence going on. The characters in the show in this second season overall were making some of the weirdest decisions out there. And something similar to what I had with Damachi season three, which I talked about in the past. There are too many characters going on at the same time, and too many things happening all over the place. To the point where, after this first half of season two ended, when you go to the workshop battle arc, it kind of sort of ruins and completely overshadows like everything that was setting itself up for once we get to the workshop battle arc, if that makes sense. So yeah, Tower of God season two in a nutshell is not only another disappointing season two to come out of last year, but simultaneously it is one of the most confusing sequels I've ever had to sit through in years, and I'll leave it at that. Because our number three spot is an even more confusing, weird, shitty, and overall just ugly to look at, and that is Chofutsu Ken Chiba Densetsu, or in English, The Legend of Supernova Prefecture Chiba. Now, I think we can agree when people look at this poster and me mentioning this title, a lot of people will say, like, hey, this should be number one. This is bad. And you will be dead right, because, again, what is the show about? It's a 13 episode show with like 3 to 4 minutes of length, and it's basically about like the lifestyles of what it's like to be in the Chiba prefecture of Japan, what it's like out there, how amazing it is, and how pedazzle dazzle it is, and that's basically what the whole show is. Cause like yeah, the animation is super weird, bouncing from 2D to 3D animation. The theme song is. If there even is a theme song, is a little bit weird and super cult like, to the point that I wonder, like, was this made by fucking aliens at times? This show was just not good, and look, I feel like for me this is like one of the better fun bad anime experiences I somehow end up watching last year, and it still sticks in my mind to this day, given that a year later this definitely should be the number one spot. I really think so. Again, just watch one episode of the show and you'll see what I mean, that this should be number one. But somehow, ladies and gentlemen, we have two other shows past this point that were somehow worse than The Legend of Super Normal Prefecture Chiba anime, which is crazy. Because, yeah, at our number two spot is probably, out of all the disappointing shows I've talked about with Tower of God Season 2, Uzumaki, and Blue Lock Season 2, and even all the disappointing hentais I've talked about up until this point, there is not one show that was much disappointing to come out last year than Ninja Kamui. Yeah, Ninja Kamui fucking sucks, man. It is a shame. This anime should have been great, Not only was the first three episodes of this show spectacular, it was amazing. It had a really cool concept that was like kind of John Wick esque to a degree. And on top of it, you had some amazing fight sequences, really good animation, really good voice acting, mind you. And again, a premise in the story that is about as old as time, about a family man getting his revenge on a evil society that he once used to work at, which again is really John Wick esque. But then past the fourth episode, that's when the show really starts falling off in quality. Not only is the dialogue super, super weird, super all over the place, there are moments where like, the dialogue, as many people even say, like it felt like for some reason whoever made the anime was probably using Chat GPT half the time. Also, the animation and the story and the characters at large were suffering so greatly after this point that when I got to see like the clips of like the final episodes of Ninja Kamui, I had to watch the last few episodes of how it came out because it was supposed to be like an epic mecha ninja battle finale, and it's like what the hell? Like it kind of just ruined the momentum of what made the original special. Like again, don't get me wrong, like Ninja Kamui did have a strong start, but the way it started and up until the point it ended is super mind-boggling. And the fact that this came out again under Adult Swim, where they also dropped the Rick and Morty anime, they dropped Uzumaki that same year, is crazy because this came out super early of last year, 2024, and I'm still shocked to this day at how badly assembled Ninja Kamui came out to be because it had so much going for it. And at one point, I even said that this was going to be like my potential anime of the year. And when it finally came and went, this show was not only super upsetting to reflect on and look back on, but the fact that this show even had the audacity to win a best brand new original anime award for the Crunchyroll Anime Awards is still shocking to me that it won that award when other shows in that category deserve it way more than Ninja Kamui. Yeah, but in a nutshell, the show sucks. The animation is not good. The story completely falls apart. On top of it, everything that you were hoping for like a fight anime revenge type of plot is completely lost in the sauce once you get to the halfway point of the show. And overall, it is a huge waste of your time. 13 episodes, waste of your time. But you want to know what is not a huge waste of your time and is, or sorry, in this case, a bigger waste of time is our number one spot. And the number one spot was, like I mentioned, was originally going to be the Rick and Morty anime. But by the technicality, I honestly felt like that show wasn't really considered to be an anime per se. But this number one spot to me was not only one of the worst examples of the isekai genre in its generic, watered down, whittled form to what it is, but it is probably the most upset I've ever been on a generic isekai anime that still to this day, even shows that I've watched this year that have like the super generic isekai slot that I was super angry about, it doesn't compare to what I had to experience from this show last year. And that is the banished former hero lives as he pleases. So, and yeah, this is my number one spot for a valid reason. This has, holy moly, a lot of the tropes of fantasy anime that I just am so sick and tired of, I'm so over of, and it just repeats the same ideas, the same cliches that we've seen over and over again with these type of shows where again it's about a dude who gets the power of a god even though he was gifted the lowest rank level, and then he lives a peaceful life but not out of the wake, of course. He meets a beautiful elf, he meets a princess, he meets a blacksmith, and every character in the show has the most basic, generic backstory possible where the blacksmith wants to get better, the princess wants to prove her father wrong. The main character, honestly, the main character has probably the most dumb generic backstory that like involves his brother for whatever reason where he wants to prove that he's much better and stronger about his family, but then the brother wants to also prove that he's stronger than him and his father. It's so weird, it's so stupid. This show to this day is, if you want to make me upset and angry, this show is the show that would actually get me upset and angry to think about because the banished former hero lives as he pleases is in all accounts, the worst generic isekai fantasy anime you ever come across. Because not only is like the story and the premise as generic as it gets, but the animation is super super bad. It is super subpar. The fact that it's under Studio Dean, yes, that's Studio Dean that gave us Konosuba and other legendary shows. And they did a collab with Marvy Jack, to be fair, so maybe it was Marvy Jack's fault and not Studio Dean's fault. But either way, they're listed on here as to who made the show. But yeah, Banished Former Hero Lives as He Pleases is, I think, is one of the worst animes of 2024, and it's a show that, as years pass on, I'm never gonna forget as to why I absolutely despise and hate this show to this day. But yes, and that is it. That is my top 5 worst animes of 2024. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one when I talk about the trashiest animes of 2024 and, of course, the best animes of 2024. That's it. I'll see you on the next one. Later.